I see there's just a couple more people joining, and we are going to record on our end as well. Oh, I see there's still a couple more people joining, so let's just give it a couple more minutes for everybody to get in. Okay, I think we have everybody in. If everyone can mute, that would be great. And that way we don't have any sound carryover. And I'm going to get us started because I think I'm just checking our participants there, and it looks like we're getting in good shape here. Okay, well, let's get going. I don't see any new people joining us right now. So my name is Therese Michelson. I'm the Information Officer for the Peace River Regional District's Emergency Operations Center. And we've been coordinating these joint media calls so that we can gather a number of the agencies involved in the response to the wildfires up here in the Peace region to give you that update on where things are at in the day and to provide an opportunity for media to ask questions. So in a moment, I will be introducing the different speakers here today for the different organizations. Just quickly through our usual spiel of how we like to do things, we'll have the individual agencies provide you with an update on where things are at within their area. And then there'll be an opportunity for media to ask questions. And we ask if you could focus your questions on their specific areas. And then we will go to the next agency and kind of continue that all the way through. Also, if you could use the raise hand feature, that's really helpful because that will put you right to the top of the screen so I don't miss you. You can also, if your raise hand isn't working or you're not sure how to do it, you can always use the chat. And if you're still not getting my attention, please feel free. You can always, put your video on and wave at the screen, and we'll do our best to catch you. I see we do have one call in today, so I will try to remember at the end of the questions for each speaker to give the caller a chance to ask questions. And other than that, I think we've got everybody in. Just checking with my associate here. So I would like to start first off by introducing our different speakers. So we have two representatives from BC Wildfire Service. We have Paula Wallbauer, who is the Donnie Creek Complex Information Officer, and Forrest Tower, who is the Northeast Complex Information Officer. So they're both here to share with you an update on the fires that they're responsible for. We also have Ryan Harvey here from Fort St. John, City of Fort St. John. And we have our EOC director here for the Peace River Regional District, Mike Watkins. So each of our speakers will be providing you with an update. And as we always do, we like to begin with the Northeast Complex, who has the majority of different fires going on in our area. So Forrest, if you wouldn't mind going ahead to give the briefing for your area, that would be great.
Sure, thanks. So my name is Forrest Tower. I'm the incoming information officer. So as has been mentioned on the last briefing, our incident management team has taken over this complex. And so you will have me or Carly DeRosier for the next couple of days providing these updates. So I'd also like to start by saying that we're working out of the Fort St. John zone, which is located on the traditional territory of the Doig River, Blueberry River, and Halfway River First Nation. We're all part of the Treaty 8 First Nations and the Dinézah people. So we are luckily enough able to work in this beautiful area of the world. I'm going to also share my screen, Teresa. So if you want to maybe give me the ability to do that. I haven't checked if I have that yet. Perfect. That should be up there. Okay, so I'll quickly talk about the 3 smaller fires in the Northeast Complex. There hasn't really been much change on any of those. So those are the Red Creek, Boundary Lake, and Cameron River wildfires. We haven't had a size change on any of those in the last few days, and those are steadily progressing towards being either being held or under control. The main overarching message I'm going to say, and I'm assuming Paula will also echo this, is the incoming weather system has proven very, very difficult to nail down in terms of what we are actually going to be expecting and receiving over the next 3 or 4 days. So the different models that our fire weather forecasters use, Canadian, US, and European models, are all quite different as of this morning. And so what we can expect is there will be an increase in wind, and it will most likely change direction and start kind of blowing smoke away from our incidents, but will probably blow the smoke from the Donny complex down over to us. So there might not actually be a big reduction in the amount of smoke in the area, unfortunately, with just how large those fires are and as well the fires in Alberta. But all that to say, there may or may not be precipitation brought within that weather system that's coming in. And so we'll just really have to be waiting to see in the next couple days whether we get precipitation, but most likely going to receive an increase in wind from what we have seen in the past. And so with that, if any parts of the larger Sutter fire get any clean air, we'll likely see an increase in fire activity. But over the past few days, we've been really smoked in, and so it has proven to reduce the activity on the smaller fires in our area. So the resource numbers are all on the fire note pages for those fires that are still wildfires of note, so you can pull those from there. But really just nothing has changed on those 3 smaller fires. So I'm not going to navigate to them on Google Earth, but I will kind of go around the larger Sutter fire. So we haven't been able to fly today with how smoky it's been. So I have a rough estimate size that it's around 25 or 26,000 hectares at this point. So you'll see kind of on the top left part of the fire, there's around a 3,000 to 4,000 hectare growth on the northwest portion of the fire here. So with that kind of winds yesterday, it did push out the fire in this direction here, as well as it did cross the Blueberry River and around a 200 to 300 hectare spot, which has been wrapped with machine guard, and there's no anticipated growth further north or in any other direction in the area that did move across the Blueberry River. So they're confident they can keep it where it's at with our current weather, and given the forecast that we've been given, it shouldn't be an area of major concern. The kind of significant activity that we have seen on the fire has still been in this northwestern portion of the fire. And so we do have unit crews working in that area. There are potential for ignitions kind of along Highway 97 between where there was growth and where there is still fuel available to burn. With how smoky it is right now and having our machines grounded, unlikely that it's going to be today. It might happen tomorrow or the next day. And so that's kind of the larger piece that we're looking for a weather window to conduct. If so, there might be some interruptions to Highway 97 traffic in terms of we might have to close the highway temporarily down, but just it'll be kind of a day-to-day kind of update on whether or not we need to go ahead with the ignition. We're trying to not have to do that, but if we do get any significant wind that would be blowing the fire in that direction towards the highway, then we'd ideally like to bring fire to the highway on our own terms. And so that's kind of one of the major pieces we're preparing for. At the very top, you'll see hand ignitions when possible, same story. So it's quite smoky and making conditions quite hard to burn. When possible, we're looking to bring the kind of this pocket of fuel up to guards that we have built, which would really kind of tighten this northern end up and reduce any chances of it spreading further north. Kind of from, so you can see these 3 red lines here. We split the fire up into Division Foxtrot, Oscar, and Delta. And so those are kind of how we have our operations laid out. So just kind of easy to talk about, and we'll probably be putting that on some of our maps going forward. Just it's a large fire and it makes things easier to explain. So we do have unit crews kind of around the fire working on various tactics, primarily on this entire eastern flank around the southern kind of horn of the fire here. This is all completed in terms of contingency lines, and operations is pretty confident that even if we do see winds that would push the fire back onto itself, kind of into that sort of southeasterly direction, that our guarding contingency lines will hold here. So with incoming weather, that kind of will be the next test. So far, winds have been pushing the fire the opposite direction, and so if it backs onto itself, we'll just be looking to kind of see how those guards work, but confident that given kind of, again, weather models that we have and work that's been done in there, looking pretty good on this side of the fire. Again, I've talked about the Northwest, so I won't talk about it much more, but that's where we are still being challenged in terms of field availability and just the kind of prevailing winds that we've seen so far. So as mentioned, potentially doing ignitions there. The bottom kind of finger here, Division Foxtrot, we have a unit crew, the fire stalkers working kind of from that division line, working south to meet up with the Rangers unit crew that are working towards them, and then around this corner and up in the northeasterly direction too. So for the majority of the perimeter of this fire, it's in a mop-up / hotspot and small scale hand ignitions. So we're just really cleaning up the perimeter on kind of the southern and eastern flanks of the fire. And where there's sort of more active on the northwest, obviously we can't put people in the head of the fire, but where it's safe for them to work, working off of Highway 97 and some of the other sort of larger roads in this area, doing the similar tactics of just small scale hand ignitions, bringing the fire to existing guards, and then where possible, some direct attack where we've had the opportunity for the last couple of days with the reduced fire behavior and the smoke. But it does kind of bring a safety element into it in that we don't have the ability to have helicopters and as well just smoke and visibility for our crews working close to the fire. It does really limit operations. So honestly, a bit of a stable last, let's call it 48 hours, other than the kind of growth on this part of the fire, but for the majority of the fire, a bit more stable than what has been over the last week. And so I'll just say it one more time, really depends on incoming weather and how much precipitation we get. If there is no precipitation over kind of this area, models are saying that we will probably go to a warming trend as early as Wednesday next week or this upcoming week. And so if that does happen and we're back into a warming trend with no precip, then there will be further growth on this fire. What direction or kind of where we're looking at growth really depends on winds. And so I just want to throw it out there that, you know, some of the other fires in this complex certainly moving toward that being held and under control. But this fire is just with the size of it and amount of work that needs to be done to put guards in everywhere. There still will be anticipated growth, even if we do get a minor amount of precipitation. Drought codes are still very high in this area. And so this will be a fire that will have a presence on it for quite some time unless we receive significant rain, in which case that, you know, at this time in the year could put the fire to bed a little bit early. But most likely there'll be a lot of work needed in the next coming weeks to really move this fire into it being held in under control status. So just want to make sure that people understand that even though some of the fires in the complex, it's just they're much smaller and we're able to put our resources kind of all around the fire. With this larger one, a little bit harder to completely wrap the fire with guard and crews and the work that they're able to do. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions when we have time for that. And as always, our info is on the Wildfire Note page. So if there are any questions, feel free to email or call that info line, and either myself or Carly are available during our operational hours to answer any questions. Thanks.
Okay, do we have any questions? Sorry, oh, we do. Grady, you're first.
Thank you for your time. For the fire, what direction is the fire moving right now? And are you expecting that to shift at all over the weekend?
Yeah, so the growth that we've seen on Stoddart in particular, that's the one we've seen growth on. It is in sort of a northwest direction that we did see that growth. So that's the current growth, probably still in that northwest direction. If we do see a wind shift, it looks like it's going to be kind of moving kind of in a southern or southeastern direction. And so that's where I mentioned, you know, kind of the fire would back in on itself. Really helpful for us in the area where it is active is in that if the fire is then, or wind is kind of pushing the fire back in on itself, much safer and easier to do any ignitions. And if we do any kind of larger scale planned ignitions that involve aerial ignition, it makes it much easier when kind of we have those winds on our side. So that would be I wouldn't go as far as saying that if winds do shift and we're kind of having them pushed in a south-southeasterly direction, that the fire will then move in that direction. Like I mentioned, that kind of eastern and southern part of the fire is pretty good in terms of contingency and control lines. But really, we'll just have to see for certain, moving into the weekend, what both speed of winds that we get and direction. Like I said, the models are just all over the place in terms of what we're expecting, other than there will be some more winds than what we've seen in the past. And so if we do get some significant winds, there might be some growth in that direction, but certainly we're not anticipating anything as we saw in kind of when that cold front moved in a couple of days ago of many kilometers of growth in one night or anything at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Spencer, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you, and thank you for your time this afternoon. Forrest, I'm curious if we do get some precipitation, is that going to affect the amount of smoke that we're seeing in the Fort St. John area?
It potentially. The most of the smoke, honestly, is not from these fires. It's smoke coming from both the Donny Creek wildfire and then from Alberta as well. So if there's localized precip in sort of Fort St. John area, it may not have any impact on the amount of smoke. The bigger factor there is wind. And so as we have increased wind, we haven't really seen any wind activity that is enough to push smoke out of the area. And also the direction has been that it's blowing all the northern and northern Albertan smoke down to us. That will be the main indicator. If we do get any winds that are pushing things towards the east or even southeast, it may clear the air around Fort St. John. And just in that kind of the northern fires, that smoke is not blowing straight towards us. And as well, smoke from Alberta might not be in this direction. So going into weekend, I would anticipate it being quite smoky as it is for the next couple of days. And then as the kind of instability, depending exactly where that happens, we might see some more clear air after the weekend is what I would say at this point.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Not seeing any other hands up right now, so I just would like to check in for anyone who is calling in. Do you have any questions for Forrest? So I don't hear anyone from the call-in, but Ashley, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, sorry, it took me longer than usual to figure out how to raise my hand. You'd think we would have figured this out by now. In a statement earlier today, the government mentioned that there is an increased risk of lightning this weekend. But then when I hear Forrest talk, there was talk about how there's many different sort of predictions that you guys are looking at. So I'm wondering if you can just talk a bit about, like, is there still an increased risk of lightning, or is that no longer the case, or are you just sort of in a situation where you don't know?
So when we've had kind of there's a ridge built where it's stable weather conditions, anytime there's a breakdown in that stable atmosphere, there's going to be a risk of lightning. And so it is just quite varied on where that's going to hit. So we know that there's going to be an unstable kind of weather pattern moving in. The trickiness is just accurately predicting where there will be thunderstorms that develop, which could have increased precipitation and or lightning. So we know that's going to happen. So there is an increased chance of lightning for sure. There is an increased chance of thunderstorms and high winds. But specifically when I'm reporting on just this kind of complex and incident, it's tricky to say whether that's going to impact our fires specifically. And same for Paula, in her area too. Is it going to massively downpour on fires just north of us, or is it going to hit us and miss them? Just really hard to accurately nail down right now where that instability will happen in terms of any lightning and or precipitation. But yes, overall, if we're talking about sort of a broader scale than just these incidents in the Fort St. John area, yes, any breakdown in sort of a stable weather system will bring increased chance of lightning. Ideally, that will come with precipitation, but there is always a chance that that's dry lightning, and so thunderstorms can develop and lightning can happen where precipitation doesn't come with it, and that's the kind of not good scenario given how dry things are here. So yeah, as we get closer into these offshore weather systems moving into BC, that's what is going to be affecting local weather here. Then we'll have a better idea of kind of this specific area and what that will mean in terms of precip and lightning.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more questions for Forrest? Okay, great. Well, then let's move on and ask Paula if you could give us an update on the Donnie Creek complex fires.
Sure, thanks. So our incident management team has now taken over the Donnie Creek complex, which originally included Donnie Creek, West Conroy Creek, Hockey Creek, and Catah Creek wildfires. And all of these wildfires have now been joined as of yesterday, and now it'll just be identified as a Donnie Creek wildfire. And also in our complex, we also have the Kahlua Lakes and the Muskwa River wildfires. And I'll just pull up my map so that you can see what I'm talking about in regards to the, let's see where it is. Okay, now I can't seem to pull up I can't share that particular piece that I wanted to share. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, sorry about that. Technology doesn't always help out, but those particular wildfires have now joined into one. So we'll be just referring to the Donnie Creek wildfire, and that Donnie Creek wildfire did increase its size quite dramatically yesterday. It is now estimated at 118,000 hectares. So that was an increase of 36,000 hectares. Of course, yesterday we saw an increase in southwest winds. However, we were also able to view the fire better yesterday and get a more accurate reading. With that increased fire behavior and growth on the north sides of our fire did exhibit yesterday rank 4 and 5 behavior, which means there was vigorous surface and crown fires with moderate to long range spotting. I believe I mentioned yesterday on our call, we did have a small scale planned ignition that was executed yesterday afternoon. And of course, that is all included into our into that hectare growth that we had and on our Donnie Creek complex. So today on the Donnie Creek wildfire, we've noticed quite smoky this morning. However, it is clearing this afternoon, and we are able to get out and view those fires. Our BC personnel are using parallel and indirect methods with ground crews and aviation resources to protect the priority 1 and 2 values and industry assets. We do have structure protection out. They're working on the south side of the Donnie Creek wildfire, establishing structure protection on critical infrastructure there. We're also continuing to monitor the Kahlua Lakes and the Muskwa River using aviation resources and high-level scans. And we currently have 8 helicopters on our incident, 11 SPU staff, our incident management team, and 6 additional resources. We have a unit crew coming onto our fire today, and another unit crew will be on the ground tomorrow. I probably forgot to mention, but so our Kahlua Lakes did increase in size as well. So it went to 18,000 hectares, and the Muskwa River wildfire also increased in size yesterday to 6,000 hectares. So I appreciate Forrest, he was able to review the weather with you, as it is quite complex over these next few days. And we've seen lots of changes in our wind and basically very instability and erratic gusts with low precipitation expected through the weekend. So I appreciate that Forrest went through that with all of you, and I won't repeat that. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you so much, Paula. Does anyone have any questions for Paula about the Donnie Creek wildfire area? Okay, not seeing any, so I'm going to jump to Ryan. Ryan, if you want to go ahead and give your update, that would be great.
Of course, once again, just a big thank you for organizing this. I know that it's rather smoky in Fort St. John, so we just want to reassure everyone that the city of Fort St. John is not currently under threat from the wildfires in the area. We know that it's smoky. And just like yesterday, you should take some steps to limit its impacts on your health. So that includes limit your time outdoors, drink plenty of water, use portable HEPA air filters to improve indoor air quality, monitor the air quality index, and watch for signs of health impacts such as shortness of breath or chest pains. On an ESS front, an emergency support services, our reception center at the Northeast Arena will be closing today at 5 p.m. We're going to give our staff and volunteers a day off tomorrow to recover, and then back Monday and Sunday and Monday from 11 a.m. till 3 p.m. And we are looking for volunteers on Sunday. So if you are able to help out that day, please join us at 10 a.m. for some training. Once again, a fire ban in conjunction with the Prince George Fire Service and the other governments in the area has been enacted for Fort St. John. So please, no open fires permitted in the area. One other thing, Pacific Cambrian Energy has sponsored 2 activities this weekend. Free swim at the North Peace Leisure Pool from 1 till 4 p.m. on Monday, May the 22nd. They've also sponsored free bowling at Fort Bowling Lanes from 1 till 3 p.m. also on Monday, May 22nd. So a big thank you to Pacific Cambrian Energy for that support. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thanks, Ryan. Spencer, would you like to go ahead?
Thank you. I'm just curious, I know that, with the smoke, it's recommended that residents go to places with cool, clean air. I'm curious for those who are unhoused or anything like that, does the city have like a list of areas that they can go to make sure that they get breaks from wildfire smoke?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Palmer Sports Center is open and available for people to go to if they need to get out of the smoke. As well as some of the social agencies such as the Salvation Army have spaces available.
Okay, thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any questions for Ryan? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask our PRRD EOC Director here, Mike Watkins, to give his update.
Mike, we can't hear you.
Sorry.
Thanks. I think I'm off mute now. Good afternoon, everybody. I thought I'd start off by sharing my screen here, and what you see before you is a combined map of both the Stoddard Creek, Red Creek wildfire to the south and the Donnie Creek wildfire to the north, at least as far as it extends to the northern boundary of the Peace River Regional District. I hesitate to call this a fun fact, but if you would like a fact, this area that you see under order, the more salmon-colored areas, that's an area roughly twice the size of the province of Prince Edward Island. Just for some context, it's a big area, and as we all know, BC is a very big province. I'll just mention something quickly about Donnie Creek and then dive into the fire area to the south. That alert area in yellow basically doesn't encompass any part of the Highway 97 for that fire. It does essentially stay away from communities and houses. They're not considered under threat at this moment. And of course, we have another look at every single fire with BC Wildfire every single day. We're stood up 7 days a week until they're considered under control. So I'll stop sharing my screen here. Last night, quite late into the night, because we were having to coordinate the release of reductions in orders for the Stoddard Creek wildfire area with the increase in orders for the Donnie Creek area. was a little bit late getting some of this news out, but what we were able to do is reduce the order size for those living in communities such as Montney, Murdale, all the way up to Presbyterian. And the effect of that was we took essentially 850 properties off order, allowing, gosh, well more than 1,500 people to return to their homes or businesses. Speaking of Presbyterian, when we talk about order areas, sometimes it's common to refer to the communities, but some of the community spaces are quite broad, and Presbyterian does cover, or what people think of as Presbyterian actually extends into the order area in some places and outside of the order area in some places. So the best way to find out if your property or business is in an order or alert area or is completely outside of both is to use the map tool that you can find on the PRRD website at prrd.bc.ca. Let's see here. What else do I have? Down my list of things that have come up. As you can imagine, with 850 properties coming off order, there was quite a lot of movement this morning out of hotels and people eager to get home. We did hear of one communication issue early in the morning. Some of the security contractors on the road for various agencies weren't equally informed. There may have been a few people turned back in the early hours, but that all got sorted out fairly quickly. And I'm happy to say that anybody that is now off order is able to go home and they won't be stopped at any road stops. Probably related to that, sometimes we're finding that people are getting their information from sources that aren't the official sources, and sometimes they're out of date. So the very best place and the only place to find information, accurate information on what the current status of orders or alerts for the Peace River Regional District is our website at prrd.bc.ca. We take great care in making sure that the information up there is accurate and up to date, and it is the first place that you will find out about changes in orders and status. Ryan mentioned that it's smoky in Fort St. John. It's equally smoky here in Dawson Creek. And just to reiterate what he said, there's no cause for concern about wildfire activity in this area. You're far out of the risk zone. It is uncomfortable, and we do encourage people to stay inside if you've got respiratory problems. And if you do have issues or severe issues, then you should seek medical attention. But for the most part, staying inside, keeping your windows shut, and hoping for clearer winds in the next day or two. That's about the best tools that we have for that. I don't really have a lot more to add. We're not expecting to hear of any significant changes today based on what we've heard in our briefings so far. But again, if something does change later in the day, our website will be the place where you'll find out about it first. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Ashley, would you like to go ahead for your question?
Yeah, can you just give me an up-to-date number for how many properties are under evacuation orders and alerts and how that compared to 24 hours ago? I'm trying to keep track of the numbers in my head.
Sure, I'll try to do that. Currently, we have 446 properties that remain on order, so it's a substantial reduction. I believe we reduced that number by 1,354 is the number that I'm remembering. And currently on alert, there are 1,064 properties. And that is not just the Stoddard Creek fire, but also the Red Creek fire. We basically are managing them both from an information perspective at the moment.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Does anyone else have questions for Mike? Spencer, please go ahead.
Just to clarify, that number includes the people that are on evacuation alert and order due to fires in the Donnie Creek complex, yeah?
Yes, there aren't any, I shouldn't say there aren't any. I think there's currently in the expanded order in Donnie, there's only 5 or 6 or maybe 15 civic addresses, and they're primarily resource industry based. We're not aware at this moment anyways of any dwellings that are encompassed by that increase in the order.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for Mike? Okay, I will give my usual update on behalf of the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, who they pass along their messages to me to share with you. So just as I say every time, I won't be able to answer questions, but I can share what they gave to me. So very quickly here, the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure is continuing to work with the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, as well as the PRRD, the RCMP, and BC Wildfire to provide traffic control and staging of equipment. The drivers are advised to check Drive BC, as that continues to be your best source for up-to-date information on road conditions and closures up in this area. So two of the highways that we usually get questions about are Highway 97. So it is fully open. However, it continues to have intermittent single-lane alternating traffic for wildfire response activities. So that's along the Beaton Airport section, and that's approximately 44 kilometers north of Fort St. John. There is signage in place, including changeable message signs to direct traffic through that Highway 97 corridor. There are reduced speed areas present along the laydown areas, so it's 70 kilometers an hour from Evergreen subdivision to mile 80 and 50 kilometers an hour at Red Creek, the Red Creek laydown area. Drivers can also expect some minor delays in that area because of our crews working. And regarding side roads, Red Creek Road has been reopened to traffic. Closures are still in effect on Lower Cache Road and Beaton River Airport Road, and there are detour signage and traffic control in place. The detour that's available for Beaton River Airport Road is via 271 Road, Rose Prairie Road, which is also known as Road 101, and Prespa Road. Good news here, Highway 29 is currently open. So that is the update from the Ministry of Transportation. So just one more check-in. Are there any other questions that media came here and have not had an opportunity to ask? All right, I'm not seeing any, but I would like to let you know that we will not automatically have this joint briefing. We've been having it scheduled daily, and over the weekend, we're not intending to do it unless there's some kind of significant change. So as always, I will send out a media advisory. I'm not automatically going to have it. For the past week, we've always planned to do this for you, but unless something significant changes, if something does change and we've got something important to get out to you, I will send a media advisory. So hopefully we all see some clearing of the smoke. It would be the one big thing. So if we're not seeing anything else, that is a wrap for today. Thank you everybody for coming, and thank you so much for our various representatives of the different organizations for giving us their time today. Thanks, Paula.
Recording stopped.